Faultless. Detyen Warriors, Book 4, by Kate Rudolph and Star Huntress. Narrated by Jennifer Gill and Ian Gordon. Chapter 1. Laurel woke up, a scream lodged in her throat, tearing at her vocal cords and doing its damnedest to get out. But she couldn't shout, couldn't make a peep. She didn't want them to hear. They couldn't know that she was awake. Them? Who were they? She swallowed the lump in her throat and winced at the scratchiness. It felt like she hadn't talked in ages, but that couldn't be right. Even in this hellhole, she still had conversations with the other girls. They kept each other sane when everything around them was hell. What other girls? She tried to shake her head to clear the cobwebs, to try and put her thoughts in order, but that only sparked the giant headache lurking at the edges of her consciousness. Laurel reached up and clutched the side of her skull, surprised to find that the hair on half of her head had been shaved clear off, leaving only soft stubble. Why had they done that? Despite the piercing pain of the headache, she managed to open her eyes, and for a moment she thought she'd been blinded. Everything was white, eye-scorchingly white and bright, and far too much for her battered vision to handle. She squeezed her eyes shut tight once more, and it took another minute to convince herself to try and see again. The second time she opened her eyes, it wasn't as bad. The room around her was still far too bright, but her eyes adjusted enough that she could start to make out the edges of tiles in the ceiling, and when she turned her head, she saw a cabinet built into the wall. She wasn't where she was supposed to be, but for once in her life that was a good thing. The past several weeks, months, Laurel wasn't sure, were one giant blur of abuse and degradation, but never in all that time had she awoken in a pristinely clean room, especially not unbound. There wasn't even the faintest hint of suffering in the air. All she could smell was the telltale scent of recycled air and a faint whiff of a cleaning product. She'd never realized that something as simple as that might make her feel safe. Confused, but safe. The pain in her head pounded, but she forced herself to sit up and take stock of the room around her. There were no windows, so she had no clue where she was or the time of day, but she spotted a door in the opposite wall. The place looked a bit like a doctor's office, with computer panels in the walls and a medbot charging on a hook near the door. Laurel looked down at herself and found fading bruises along her.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?